Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And earlier this morning, Fierce Wireless held another conference, and one of the speakers was Ronan Dunn from Verizon. He gave some more insight, a few more details, and I want to pass those updates along to you guys on the channel. So here's the picture. I was tuned in. It was a virtual meeting, as a conference, as all the other conferences have been. So no change there. So I'll just go ahead and switch it to this picture. So a few things that I think were very important that he pointed out in this meeting is Verizon is not changing their strategy. And in fact, they're upping their projections versus what they've set maybe even a week ago at the analyst day. So he was asked, what are the C-band predictions for the end of this year, 2021? And then he was also asked about C-band densification and some of the information that T-Mobile is putting out in the market space, and some other questions that we'll get to later in the video. So first, he responded to the first question that at the end of this year, this is very critical, 2021, December, they will be at 75 million pops covered with C-band. 75 million in the top 46 PEAs. That means they're getting started now. There's no waiting until middle of April or May. They're starting to deploy this at the end of this month. That's what I'm being told. And hearing him say this makes me even more confident that equipment, radios, sidewalks are happening. And they are very furiously going to scale this. What are some of the very few negatives in this deployment? So that's something that I wanted to add to this piece really quickly. They only, and I'm not saying this is bad, this is of course going to help them, but from December 2021 until December 2023, they only have 60 megahertz blocks, contiguous 60 megahertz blocks cleared. They can't go beyond 60 for at least 2 years. That's one of the negative, and they can't utilize any of that spectrum outside of the top 46 PEAs. That's probably some of the negative on this. Is that necessarily bad? No, it's not bad. Why? Because some of those markets are going to be deployed ahead of time. Let's say El Paso, for instance. El Paso falls outside of the top 46. We're like 50, 57, 58 on the list that I've seen. So I'm anticipating in the middle of 22 or early 23, they start adding the equipment. So by the time December rolls around of 23, they can just flip a switch and turn it on. What happens then? All of it is cleared in this market. All of it. Every single megahertz that they bought is cleared in this market starting December 23. That includes the B block. They bought the B block in El Paso. They did not get any of the A block, but they got 160 megahertz of the B block. So then, do they turn all that on contiguous? Because they do have it contiguous. That remains to be seen, but it's going to be massive on top of the densification that they're already deploying in this market. So don't necessarily take that 2-year gap as a huge negative, but they are going to be behind in some markets, but they still have an opportunity, even in El Paso, to deploy CBRS and millimeter wave on the macros while they wait for C-band to fully clear. So that's kind of the negative, but I don't think that's such a big deal. There's just a 2-year gap. Time has been flying by. So they'll work through that and they'll scale it very rapidly. I think they've given themselves pretty much 3 years. That's kind of what that told me when they said they're going to invest an additional 10 billion over 3 years. I think the time frame that they've given themselves is to deploy it across the entire network in 3 years. I think that's pretty much what that's telling us. That's not what he said at this conference, but I think that's what that's telling us, is that they're set to try to scale it very big within 3 years. I know they're going to start scaling it out, in 24 as well, 2024. But I think within that 3-year time frame, they want to have most of this this rollout completed. So the question about densification, and I don't see that as a negative either. He was very straightforward. He said, let me clarify, in our dense urban environments, we have enough densification. I'm sure they've ran analysis. The CTO, the engineering team, they know they have a lot of overlapping coverage. They have a lot of densification. They've included small cells in that as well. So at the even I think even in the suburban areas they'll be fine. I think they've built enough densification there too. He was honest and he did mention in some of the semi-rural and rural areas they will need to fill in some more densification. It's a fact. And that's something that even T-Mobile was claiming on their analyst day. They never argued, just to clarify this on my end, T-Mobile never argued that Verizon lacked densification at the urban level. T-Mobile argued they lacked densification outside of the urban area, more into the, I'm guessing into some of the more rural areas, bigger highways, some of the interstates. They likely lack densification to T-Mobile's 2.5, and that's according to T-Mobile engineers. That's not coming from me. They likely need 1.5 times more sites outside of the urban areas to fully have continuous C-band coverage. Does Verizon necessarily need to build the network to that site spacing? Maybe in some areas it makes sense, in others it doesn't. And that's something that Verizon is going to clearly look into if they haven't already. Again, there's other technologies that likely come with this to evolve the spectrum reach, such as beamforming, HPUE, newer radios, more efficient. All of that comes into play. And then if there is additional site leasing that Verizon can co-locate on, or if they necessarily have to build new sites and money is there, I'm sure they will spend it to make it happen. So that's something that I wanted to kind of get my point across on that from a unbiased, objective view. Verizon is not going to sit still, no matter what T-Mobile says or does. They pride themselves on having the best network. The team that's there is the team that started low band, the team that did XLTE, the first mid-band layer on AWS. They pride themselves on having the best network and the best network perception. They are not just going to raise the white flag and give up to T-Mobile. They will spend whatever it takes to get there, to be the best once it's all said and done. Again, there is no expiration date on this 5G. If Verizon doesn't really get going till 24, 25, and they come in and they start, beating everyone, then it was like, okay, T-Mobile, you had your chance. You had about a year or so, and now Verizon is here to take the cake again. And I think that's what's transpiring here. Why do I say that? Because they are spending. You can always do more with more money. It's proven. If you have more money than me, you can buy 2, 3, 4 cars that I can't. And that's something that Verizon is displaying here. They are definitely going to surpass everyone at the end of this. I think they have the most aggressive plan, the most contiguous spectrum. They have a small cell plan that's already in motion. It's been in motion for years now. And they just pride themselves too much on having the best network. And not to say that T-Mobile's will be bad. Again, T-Mobile will have their own success. Like I mentioned this morning, if they feel comfortable spending 9 to 10 billion and they still make the revenue and the free cash flow that they talk about, then there's nothing that I can do. There's nothing negative I could say about that. They are going to laugh to the bank. They're going to say, we achieved this revenue, this free cash flow by spending less. So that's something that, like I said, the success that feeds them is within their own strategy. If they don't need to spend 12, 13, 14, 15 billion, then they don't need to. That's on them. But Verizon is spending more. They're spending more. They're spending more on a yearly basis. They've been doing it on a yearly basis. And they just invested 10 billion more over 3 years. And as I mentioned in a previous update, they can spend that. They have the green light to spend that as fast as they can possibly deploy that equipment. And as I said, permits are no longer needed on previous existing LTE infrastructure per FCC regulations now. Those sites can be touched at any time to upgrade to 5G as necessary. So if there's maybe like some landowners and stuff that may require a call, hey, we're getting ready to go up there, so you're aware. That's likely something that they'll have to do out of common courtesy, and to not be, the tower crews not be labeled as trespassing. But other than that, this is likely going to be the fastest mid-band deployment we will ever see in the United States. This is going to be massive. Verizon is going to run into issues. Again, as I mentioned previously, even with T-Mobile, they're going to run into shortages of tower climbers. That's how much demand this rollout is going to produce. And again, let one of the OEMs not be ready with equipment and meet the demand. Verizon will go with someone else. They will say, hey, Nokia, you're done. Get out of here. We'll go with Samsung. Or they'll try to find somebody else, or make it work somewhere else. They've done it in the past. If you can't produce the demand, the supply to feed the demand, they go bananas. They don't tolerate that at all. They are very, very strict within Verizon on how things get done. There is a standard of excellence with Verizon. I can tell you that right now. It's not a secret. They have a standard of excellence, and you have to produce for them. You have to produce great quality of work, or they will not choose you again. It's a fact. So again, this is just a brief update that I wanted to push out. Another number, a projection that they did increase, was millimeter wave. At the analyst day, which was just about a week ago or so, they stated 50% of urban traffic on mobile data usage, they want in the urban environment, they want it to be 50%, they want it to be from the millimeter wave network, which that's already mind blowing if you really think about if you do the math on the reachability of millimeter wave and how much it's really going to take to really get that going. That's massive. He stated today it's now 50 to 70% of mobile data traffic going over the millimeter wave network in the urban environment. So that's likely signaling they have to put indoor repeaters inside of the Starbucks, inside of the offices that you see, inside of some of the businesses that are in downtown urban areas. That if you can get in with a deal that would benefit the business as well as the user, then it's going to be something that they construct, and I think the deals are going to come in. I know they haven't openly discussed that yet, but as we do start hearing, hey, Starbucks signs up and all these other businesses, I'm sure there's a use case there where Starbucks may be able to run their entire system off of Verizon millimeter wave repeaters on an indoor occasion, and the Verizon customer is also able to utilize the millimeter wave there. So again, like I said, there is no expiration on 5G. Verizon is very goal oriented on this. They're very clear on their goal. They're not secretive. They're not like T-Mobile. We really don't know about millimeter wave because they didn't talk about it. We really don't know about small cells because they didn't talk about it. No, Verizon's like, here, we laid it all out. 10 billion C-band. We're going to be here at this time frame. This is where we want to go with millimeter wave and small cells, and they're producing. They're producing and they're executing. So again, if you have been on the channel or you're new to the channel and you have not yet liked, shared, subscribed, make sure you do so. Hit the notification bell so you are notified when I do upload content. Make sure to follow the social media outlets for more updates and interactions. This is Tyrone with Tech Life. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.